Hey YouTube viewers, hashtag my global family. This is Abeita, the YouTube academic, here with your hashtag Abeita reality dose. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2020, and today's topic is going to be revolving around COVID-19 and what's going on in New Mexico in particular, which is my home state. At 4 p.m. today, our New Mexico governor is going to make some announcements about the policies moving forward. The stay-at-home order was going to expire this Friday, but there have been a lot of cases that are going on in New Mexico, and I'm going to start covering that because people, please, I know it can seem as if everything is okay, as if everything is normal. Our psyche, our anxiety, every bit of us is telling us, go out, it's okay, let's go back. The economy, the stress, right, of losing our jobs, myself included. Unfortunately, if my class does not make, it will be canceled for the summer, so I potentially will be unemployed. I just got a message from my leadership about that. But that is part of our reality right now, right? We are looking at the economic fallout of the greatest economic crash since the Great Depression. Like, that has been confirmed. We know what this has done to our economy. What we don't know is what that is going to look like going forward, especially if you're in an insulated position, right? If, for example, my mom's retired and has the ability, thank goodness, to stay home and not have to worry about going out every day. My other two parents work for the two largest educational institutions in New Mexico, Albuquerque Public Schools and the University of New Mexico, and they are both safe and sound. So either they're working in conditions where they're not interacting with a lot of people, or they're working from the safety of their home via, technology. Thank goodness for technology. And that's another thing, right? You have to have the infrastructure to have the ability to have internet at home and a printer and a fax and a scanner and all those things. Maybe not a fax, right? I'm a Luddite. But you have to have that technology to have the bare minimum to be able to work from home, right? And only 30% of Americans at this time have that ability. And that's another privilege we have to reflect on. So going back to COVID-19 and having to deal with the actual ramifications of that, today I want to specifically focus just on actual cases and death. The first one, and the reason I kind of got started on this is I was poking around thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And an article came up and it was regarding Roosevelt and Lea, L-E-A, County Sheriff's Office. They said that they're not going to enforce the governor's public health mandates, and that is for the state of New Mexico. And it was basically a Facebook post that was done by both sheriff's department. And one of them said that, the sheriff's office said that they would support the rights of the business owners to open their businesses, but that the businesses do so discreetly and responsibly. So yes, they are saying, make sure you keep the doors locked, make sure you keep people at a distance and you do minimums. But at the same time, right, so it says Roosevelt Sheriff Marker Maine, I'm so sorry, I'm killing your names. Malin Parker said he supports local county businesses opening up with the same guidelines big box stores have, as he feels the frustration mounting from his constituents. Has it been a threatening situation, Sheriff Parker? I don't think as yet, but I feel like we're on the cusp of a threatening situation. People are, I guess, for lack of a better term, they're tired of being told what they have to do. People are getting so morally compromised, it's just so turning into a much worse situation than in the actual sicknesses, at least in part of the states where the numbers are so low. And he's speaking to the frustrations of small business, right? These people are literally, their livelihoods on their line. They can't make business payments. They can't make mortgage payments. They can't make payroll payments, right? The people who work in the stores, if they don't go to work, they're not bringing home a paycheck. But at the same time, we have to think about the greater ramifications of an arm of our government, which is the sheriff's office is, right? Elected officials of our government saying that they're not going to enforce governmental policies implemented by our governor. Now, what this does is, and I'm going to give credit to my friend Robin Martinez for this analogy, but we talked about this a few moments ago about the feudalism of this. What this does is this turns states and county and local governments, and including the federal government, into smaller feudal systems. So back to feudal times, you guys, right? Remember back to kings and queens and lords and vassals and all of that. basically you were subject to the authority that was directly over you. So if the sheriff says this is what's going to happen, this is going to happen. Back in, medieval times, if your lord follows this policy, that's what you did. Regardless of what the king said, your overlord, depending on what fief you belong to, was who you answered to. That was law, right? And during 2020, in the face of a global pandemic, what does it mean when our local law enforcement is not complying with the letter of the law, right? That creates these many feudal systems and further exacerbates inequality, and raises a lot of concerns, right? We need all of our government officials to be on the same page. And that is what is hugely troubling about what is coming out of the Trump administration, is this feeling of uncertainty because they don't know what is going on. Our federal government does not have a good handle on what is happening, and they have let us out to dry, right? We are literally, depending on what state you are in, depending on whose policies are governing what happens in your day-to-day life, you're seeing either more deaths and more cases or reasonable actions being put in place that may impede on people's feelings of what they have the right to do, but in actuality are saving human lives. So again, I'm questioning this idea and saying, no, this is being irresponsible as elected government officials to not follow the policies put in place by our governor. Those are safety, public health issues. And yes, the government is absolutely the right people to make those public safety decisions. That is why we elect them. Not so we can make those individual decisions, but so that our government or the greater good makes those decisions to safeguard all of our lives, right? This is not random. It's our government implementing policy to protect all of us. It's not something we get to choose on whether or not we should implement, okay? And that's why I'm terrified that this is actually happening. Number two, even though it sounds reasonable, it sets a dangerous precedent, you guys. If government officials, again, and historically have only done according to their jobs or haven't done their jobs, right? In some states, with gay marriage, when it was an issue, if you were a county clerk and you didn't believe in it, they wouldn't issue you a certificate. So we know that our government has a history and policy of only implementing what they feel to be appropriate. The problem with that is a pandemic doesn't understand feelings. A pandemic just kills people. It kills people or they get very sick, right? We are looking at actual death tolls. Over 88,000 people have died in the United States. Died. Any other year, 88,000 Americans dying would be catastrophic. And this is catastrophic, right? But we still have not been able to wrap our minds around that, especially if you're insulated in an area where you're not seeing these damaging effects. Right now, it's still an idea. It's still 2 or 3 people away from it actually affecting your life. You might maybe have gotten furloughed, or you might see a reduction in hours, but you might only know of a death 2 or 3 people away from you, right? A friend of a friend, or an aunt or relative of someone you know. But the fact of the matter is, if you live in a place like New York City, or if you're in a place like the Navajo reservation, where the mortality rates and infection rates are 2 or 3 or 4 times the national rates, you're realizing how catastrophic it is right now. The rest of us are going to get hit with it over the next couple of months and the next couple of years. But right now, for many people in parts of this country, depending on your positionality, depending on your access to resources, your life might be unbearable right now. And that's what we as a society need to come together to address. We need monthly stipends. We need our government to literally pass packages of aid that aren't funneled through our corporations, right? All those big businesses, those corporations, they took all the funding that was given in the first couple of packages. And by the time it got down to small businesses, there wasn't money left, right? Those patchwork Band-Aid solutions that they're giving us right now are endangering our lives. And we as Americans have to realize that we need drastic solutions. This isn't something that we're going to get over in a couple months. This is something that's going to take us years to recover from. And the response from our government is criminal. And the next article that I wanted to touch base on was just talking about, excuse me, it was from New Mexico In Depth, and it says that 50% of all of the COVID-19 deaths in New Mexico so far have been Native American. And this was published on May 11th. It says half of the 200 people who have died as of yesterday, this again was dated the 11th, were Native Americans, a jarring number for the population that only makes up 11% of the entire state. It says it's another grim statistics for the state's 23 tribes that have taken the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic. Nearly 60% of all of the cases through testing infected with the virus were indigenous. And it says the data about those who have died were provided in advance of the governor's update. And that is catastrophic. This virus is hitting particularly hard communities of color. 60% of all cases are hitting Black communities of infections, and that this is literally race and class. This disease is going to be a mark upon our populations, and the people who survive this are going to be the ones who have more access to resources. And historically, that has never been people of color or poor whites. And that is literally translating into the loss of our lives. By our government not instituting life-saving policies or common sense policies like monthly stipends, protective equipment for all of our people, they're giving us a death sentence, right? These are literally, they're killing off certain parts of our population by doing nothing. The last one is just the update. So the number of deaths to New Mexico residents is now 219 people. And they reported 143 new cases in New Mexico. So as of Monday, New Mexico has reported 5,212 cases. And that is unacceptable. And those are our real people's lives at stake. And 200, any of these deaths is too many. But literally, this is a cry for help. Our people are dying in our communities, and we need someone to do something about it. And I'm asking you, from the safety of your homes, by you doing your part, by staying at home, by social distancing, by wearing masks, by lobbying your state legislatures, your city people, your officials, your deans if you're a student, right? It is safer for us to stay at home. All of the studies, all of the global countries that we've been watching, when they reopen because they believe that they've conquered it, they see new surges in deaths and in infections. And so we need to start thinking about long-term planning and being in our homes till next year. So what does that look like? How does our government support our lives and thereby creating a long-term plan for us to wait this out? Because that is what we need. We need time and we need the security and safety to be able to wait this out. And that is why our government doing nothing is a death sentence to some people. So please support each other, reach out to other community members, and let's start thinking of some solutions that are going to maybe create some more debt. But what did they give to Wall Street during those couple of minutes that they propped it up versus actually creating social safety nets in both the medical field as well as food, housing security, and making sure that our people have what they need every day. That's a tall order, you guys. I know it. But again, let's put our thinking caps on together. Real lives are actually depending on it. This pandemic is something that we have to start thinking new about, right? This is not an idea we're fighting. This is a virus. And they don't care about our scruples or our ideas or what we feel like doing. They will indiscriminately just take life. So please be safe, stay at home, and keep wearing your masks. This is Abeita, the YouTube academic, with your hashtag Abeita reality dose. Have a good day, you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.